After 7 years of ups and downs with Jack, I'm torn. He promised to propose within a year. That was 17 months ago. I'm working on it, he says, but I can't shake this feeling of betrayal after finding out he's lied about savings. Should I stay or go? Summary: my 28-year-old female boyfriend, 31-year-old male, promised to propose within a year, but that was 17 months ago. I am contemplating ending our 7-year relationship. I, 28-year-old female, have been in a romantic relationship with Jack, 31-year-old male, for almost 7 years. We met in November 2016, nearly a month after my mother passed away, and I had also escaped from an abusive relationship during the same week as my mother's death on October 10, 2016. Our relationship began a bit tumultuously as we started dating in December 2016. For context, in 2016 I was 20 years old and Jack was 23 years old. I had adopted some abusive behaviors from my previous relationship, which I accidentally projected onto Jack. We dated for about 6 months before he ended the relationship. I was heartbroken because I believed he loved me and was unaware that I was being abusive toward him. I thought I was being playful and funny when I would hit him, but looking back, I now see how distorted my perception was at that time, and those behaviors were not acceptable. Jack and I have had multiple conversations since then, where I acknowledged my abusive behaviors, apologized, and made efforts to manage myself better. Jack struggled with alcohol issues for many years. My mother was also an alcoholic, which contributed significantly to my distrust of him and often became a topic of contention during arguments. In 2017, I felt that he was the only man for me and I was deeply in love with him. When he broke up with me, he explained that he didn't mean it when he said he loved me and that he had only said it because I had stated it first. I felt betrayed and heartbroken, but I still loved him. I took a year to focus on understanding myself and figuring out who I wanted to become. In late May 2018, we agreed to try dating again. Although I was no longer abusive toward him, I still had significant trauma to address. This trauma sometimes emerged in outbursts of crying and occasional rage. I struggled with feeling unloved, and Jack had grown up in a very neglectful home. I expressed a lot of affection while he showed very little. He would often tell small lies which affected my ability to trust him, both in terms of honesty and communication. This became a persistent issue for several years. Eventually, his communication improved, and he began telling fewer lies. In August 2021, I started working at the same domestic violence shelter where I stayed in 2016 after escaping my abusive ex-boyfriend. This experience helped me recognize the abusive patterns I exhibited when we first began our relationship, as well as the personal growth I had achieved since then. I learned more about power, control, and the nature of abuse. I remained vigilant about areas where I might seek power and control in our relationship, and what steps I could take to prevent an imbalance. Over the years, we explored various methods to learn how to love each other better. We read the 5 love languages, checked in about each other's emotional needs, and I frequently offered suggestions on improving our communication and enhancing the quality of love we shared. One way I expressed my desire for love was by asking him to write me a love letter. I initially made this request in 2019 or 2020, but it took him several years to actually write me a letter. We experienced many ups and downs, and ultimately in January 2022, I underwent an evaluation with a licensed psychologist and began therapy with that professional. I learned a great deal about myself and continued seeing him. I now have more tools in my toolkit, so to speak, and I strive to be aware and mindful of my thoughts and actions and how they affect both myself and others. I also disclosed my previous abusive behaviors and committed to avoiding those habits while being attentive to when I might begin thinking or behaving that way again. After over a year of therapy, Jack agreed to see my therapist and undergo an evaluation. Friends and family noted the progress I had made in therapy, which encouraged him to be more open to trying it. Before this, he had expressed that a previous therapy experience was negative for him, making him resistant to seeking help on his own. I continued to grapple with feelings of being unloved, and my therapist insisted that this reflected how I viewed myself rather than my feelings toward Jack or his feelings toward me. In mid-2023, Jack finally wrote me a love letter. I felt more anger about the delay than gratitude for the gesture. Our therapist suggested that Jack began to feel better about himself, which may have allowed him to communicate his love for me more effectively. Jack has shown support by being a good listener whenever I need to talk. He often answers his phone, even while working, if I need to vent or seek assistance. I appreciate the way he touches me, not in an intimate manner. He will tickle or trace my back, which is something I have cherished since we met. He has generally been open to trying new things and will communicate with me when I raise concerns about his behavior. He does not get angry and often remains calm, He has a connection with almost all animals and demonstrates a strong work ethic. His coworkers frequently praise him for his calmness and patience, qualities that help keep the team focused and composed. Jack has his own hobbies and interests, which include building and painting Warhammer 40K models, leatherworking, metalworking, shooting, and archery, among others. I love him and recognize that while I will request him to express love in different ways, I do not want to compromise on the ways he currently shows me love and support. In October 2023, Jack and I attended a wedding for a friend of mine. During this event, Jack confided in my friend Tish that he was planning to propose within the next year. When I was feeling unloved, both Jack and Tish reassured me of his intentions to propose. At that time, Jack and I were living in his father's house. He clearly indicated that he wanted to move out of his father's house before advancing our relationship to the next stage. When I asked Jack to investigate what was needed to buy a home, he met with his bank, which advised him to pay off all his debts and return once he had eliminated his debt. He had a 500 credit card debt with that bank and a few medical bills, totaling less than 700. He did not pursue further information after that. In March 2024, I began the process of purchasing a house. We completed the purchase by the end of May 2024. Jack expressed a desire to buy a motorcycle before buying a house, but I insisted that we prioritize the house first, and then we could explore the motorcycle option. I managed all the paperwork and coordinated the various aspects of purchasing the house. This included working with the realtor, scheduling showings, liaising with loan officers, researching different loan options, organizing classes to enhance my knowledge and secure a lower interest rate, and assisting his father in preparing the necessary documents to co-sign for the mortgage. When I requested that he have his tax documents and work information ready, the only thing I asked him to do, he waited until after the deadline set by the loan officer to provide this information. By the time we closed on the house, I was so stressed that I developed shingles on my left arm and back. I felt incredibly alone throughout this process. I had put in so much effort to secure us a home, and I felt some resentment that he had only had one conversation with someone at his bank while I handled everything else. In early 2024, Jack began addressing his drinking problem. Before buying the house, we had agreed that he would not drink at home and would consult me before purchasing or consuming alcohol. One day while we were still living at his father's house, I noticed the smell of alcohol on him and inquired if he had been drinking. He initially denied it, but because I had dealt with his dishonesty and lack of transparency, I rephrased the question to, "Have you had anything to drink today?" He admitted to stopping at a bar on his way home from work. I still sometimes suspect he drinks based on how he smells, but he insists it is due to his bourbon-scented body wash and shampoo. I find it hard to trust him on this and have questioned him several times since that incident. After moving into the house, he brought alcohol home on 3 separate occasions. I did not voice much about the first 2 instances, but when it happened the third time, I expressed my concerns and reminded him that he had agreed to discuss drinking with me before buying or consuming alcohol and that he should not bring any home. He did not uphold that promise. We have not had any further issues with alcohol in the house since then, but I do occasionally suspect he has been drinking based on his scent. I requested that he change his hygiene products to something that does not have a bourbon or alcohol scent. It took him a couple of months to comply because he expressed that he enjoyed that fragrance. I waited patiently for the proposal to occur, but as we approached the end of 2024, Jack informed me that he would not be able to propose that year. I offered to contribute towards the cost of the ring and communicated that I did not want anything overly large or expensive. I found a ring, and after sizing it and including the desired stone, the cost would be around $550. My friend Tish explained that Jack wanted to buy me a nice ring and needed to be sure he had enough money saved. She believed this sentiment was romantic, suggesting that he valued me highly. In December 2024, we encountered a rough patch when he lied about not having to buy a video game because he had maintained the same account for several years. It turned out that he had purchased a video game, and I felt he was being dishonest, which made me doubt his sincerity. At the end of February or beginning of March 2025, I attended therapy and expressed my gratitude for Jack, acknowledging how he supports me, and I told him I was proud of the man he was becoming. My therapist asked whether Jack reciprocated such affirming words, and upon reflection, I realized that he did not often reciprocate much of the love I extended to him. I discussed this with Jack, and he agreed that he could improve in expressing kind and loving sentiments, especially before or after I had demonstrated love toward him. In mid-March 2025, I suggested that he buy a motorcycle now that we had been in our home for almost a year, and I wanted to honor my word about him getting a motorcycle. He was denied a loan due to his debt-to-income ratio, so I offered to co-sign, and he was successfully able to purchase the motorcycle. On Saturday, March 29, 2025, I continued to reflect on my therapy session regarding reciprocity and began to feel unloved and unappreciated because I was fulfilling my commitments and doing even more therapy, budgeting, organizing outings to increase his community involvement, buying a house, purchasing a motorcycle, etc. Yet he still had not proposed. I shared my frustrations with him. He commented that he felt encouraged to purchase a motorcycle that he could not afford independently, and I became upset over the fact that he had not yet bought a ring. After arguing about this for a day or two, he revealed that he had stopped regularly depositing money into an account he created because, in December 2024, I had expressed doubts about his honesty. He also mentioned that whenever he deposited money into the account, he had withdrawn it for dates and meals. He promised to improve his budgeting and reassess his spending habits to regain control over his finances. I will admit that when I discovered he had not been following through on what he claimed, I reacted by screaming and yelling, saying some truly hurtful things to him. I have since apologized and acknowledged that regardless of how I feel, it is unacceptable to treat him that way, and he does not deserve to hear such awful things. I felt as though I lost control over my emotions and discussed my feelings during therapy. They are currently quite volatile. At times, I want to love him and feel at peace in our relationship, while at other moments, I feel consumed by rage and anger. After our argument and learning about his actions, I expressed to him that I was deeply hurt. I empathized with him about the frustration of me repeatedly bringing up similar issues. I encouraged him to consider how painful it is for me to keep voicing the same concerns but not see any changes occur as promised. He then attempted to initiate intimacy with me. When I tried to explain that I did not feel emotionally connected to him due to everything that had transpired and that I did not wish to be intimate with him, I felt dismissed as he repeatedly said okay, and assured me that he understood. What frustrates me is that I have made hints about desiring him to propose and he insists, I am working on it. However, after discovering that he had not been working on it, I felt betrayed once again. Additionally, I feel hurt because if he genuinely understood the pain his actions caused me, he would not have attempted to initiate intimacy. Should I try to resolve the issues in our relationship, or should I cut my losses and leave? Story 2. I thought I was finally moving on from my ex after 6 years, but when she broke up with her boyfriend, it hit me hard. The universe really doesn't want us to be together. Now, I'm questioning if I was ready for my new girlfriend or just clinging to nostalgia. Am I stringing her along? Hello, Redditors. This is my first significant post and also my first time creating a throwaway account. I have been seeing this girl for a month now, and when we initially started going out, I sat myself down and asked if I was prepared for a relationship and if I was genuinely over my ex. I believed I was ready to move on. It has been a little over 6 years since my ex and I were together, but apparently it is easier said than done. I will start by helping you understand my relationship with my ex and perhaps the reason why I feel so attached. We met online through a group of friends. She lived in America and I lived in Canada. We quickly became friends, and after getting closer, we started dating when I was 16. However, she wanted to keep our relationship a secret for fear of being made fun of by our friends. Personally, I could not care less, but I understood her reasoning. I now wish we had been open about it from the beginning. Initially, the relationship felt like the best thing that ever happened to me. We were young and naive. This was the first relationship in which I truly felt invested, but the constant lying made it difficult. That being said, an online relationship as a teenager is a terrible idea. I think there is already enough angst and drama in a teenage relationship to sort through without a significant secret and a 1,000-mile distance between each other. Another factor was that I had a lot going on in my personal life at the time, and I admit I was really unfair to my partner, closing myself off and lashing out, which caused us to drift apart. Eventually, we broke up after dating for a year and a half. I was absolutely devastated. She was my first love, and she will always have a special place in my heart. I pleaded with her for one more week to make things right, but she had made up her mind, and to be fair, I fully agree with her. I was a childish, hateful person at the time, and it would have been difficult to have a future with someone like that. After that, everything changed for me. All the plans we had for our life together went out the window in a matter of seconds, and it was hard to come to terms with this as I entered my final year of high school. It made me realize I needed to change, and in the end, it made me a better person. Not long after we split up, less than 2 weeks later, she had moved on. It became obvious that she had developed feelings for someone else in our friend group. This was like a knife through the heart, and it broke me even more. I understood that she needed to be happy, and I was happy for her, but I was, and apparently still am, nowhere near moving on, so it hurt deeply. We did not talk for a while, But when we reconnected to get some closure, we both agreed that we were overly attached to each other. We admitted that we were both obsessed with the idea of being together, which made the negative aspects much worse. Over time, we would disconnect and reconnect, and we were arguably becoming closer than before. Now, fast forward a few years, I have remained in the same friend group while I watched the girl I loved experience everything I wanted to do with her alongside someone else. It was heart-wrenching, and I would not wish it on my worst enemy, but somehow, I always found myself still having feelings for her. I mean, we still hung out together all the time. The way we interacted and how much fun we had just the two of us felt unmatched, making me feel foolish for allowing myself to feel that way when she clearly did not want to be with me. It has been a constant struggle for me, and I wish I could simply turn off my feelings for her, but the spark we have still feels one in a million. Now, how does this all come into play 6 years later? I have been dating my new girlfriend for about a month now. I had not had much contact with my online friends in a few months, and everything in life is going well. Then, I recently joined a call with my ex because despite everything, we are still friends and I wanted to catch up with her. We talked about what was new and what we had missed in the past months when she mentioned that she and her boyfriend had broken up. This is the first time she has been single since we split, and I was surprised. It caught me off guard. In that moment, it made me think, wow, the universe really does not want us to be together. That is when I realized that maybe I was not ready to move on. Even after spending all this time alone and after meeting my new girlfriend, I still find myself wishing for things to be different. There is another reason I am having second thoughts. There have been moments where my new girlfriend has raised some concerns. For example, she became very jealous the first time she met my friends, accusing me of being in love with my best friend's fiancé, while in the same breath her roommate, who is 19 years old, does everything for her from cooking to cleaning to packing her bags, and he constantly calls her ma'am, which makes me very uncomfortable. I feel like I do not know my new girlfriend well enough to understand how I feel, and I may have jumped into this relationship too quickly because I wanted to ensure I was over my ex. My new girlfriend and I get along and there is attraction, but I feel if I am comparing her to my ex or wishing things were different, then I am being unfair to her and leading her on. I feel really bad because I do care for my new girlfriend immensely. I just am not sure if I was ready to date again. So I guess what I am asking is, do I need to be over my ex to find happiness in my new relationship? Is this simply me being blinded by nostalgia and what feels most comfortable rather than what is actually good for me? Should I talk to my girlfriend about my feelings? Should I reach out to my ex? Or is it too soon to figure out how I should feel? I know I probably come off as a loser for being so caught up in this girl's web, but I cannot help but miss my ex. She is the most compassionate person I know and has been with me through the worst times of my life. I will check back in a few days and perhaps post an update if one is needed. Thank you for taking the time to read my lengthy post about my emotional instability. Oh 07